Okay, good morning, everyone. Can I thank everybody for joining today's confirmation meeting? I'm Councillor Mohammed Iqbal, Chair of the Police and Crime Panel, and I would like to welcome everybody to today's confirmation hearing. I would especially like to welcome Janine Nelson, who is the Commissioner's proposed candidate for the role of Chief of Staff. And I'm sorry that we cannot meet today in person, but more than that, unfortunately, we can't use the videos. We can't use the camera, so we can't see each other because it causes problem on the, because it's a public meeting and the live stream is affected, then signal breaks down. So unfortunately, we can't use the camera. So sorry, Janine, we just have to use the microphones.
No problem.
I'm just going to set out. I'm going to ask Police and Crime Panel Officer to introduce panel members before we go on to the procedures of the meeting. So can I introduce Sam Wilkinson?
Good morning. Yes, I'll just introduce the panel members who are on the call this morning. We've got Councillor Amanda Carter of Leeds. We've got Councillor Tariq Hussain of Bradford, Joe Sykes, independent member, Councillor Peter Gruen, Leeds, Councillor Jackie Williams of Wakefield, Councillor Russell Brown of Bradford, Councillor Sophie Whitaker of Calderdale, and Councillor Naeem Hussain of Calderdale.
Okay, have we got any apologies, Sam?
We have apologies from Councillor Richard Dunbar, Roger Grasby, Masood Ahmed, Mark Thompson, Stuart Heppenstall, and Carl Burke.
Okay, thank you. Can I also add, because of the technical difficulty, in case I get dropped off and the signal breaks down, Councillor Jackie Williams, the Deputy Chair, will take over. Councillor Jackie Williams, Wakefield, she will take over the meeting to ensure that we finish in a timely manner. And worst case scenario, if she has any technical issues, then it'll be Councillor Peter Gruen who will take over. This is agreed by the panel. So, okay, I will now set out the procedure of the meeting. This morning's meeting is a confirmation hearing for the panel to review the Commissioner's proposed appointment of a Chief of Staff in line with the requirements. And can I also say that this is a public meeting and it's a live stream, so members of public are welcome to see or hear, not see today, but hear the proceedings and procedures of the meeting. So as the hearing is a public meeting, the video conference is not being live streamed, unfortunately, because of these technical issues, which hopefully should be resolved by the new year. And then we all live by hope. Hopefully next year we could actually have proper meetings, hybrid meetings, but it's been a difficult and tough year for the whole, not only our country. So the panel have been provided in advance with information from the Commissioner on the role, the recruitment process and Janine's background to help them in considerations. When we begin, I will pass over to this is just going through the process, so I will pass over to the Commissioner to introduce Janine, if he wants to say a few words before we move on to the questions on the panel. The panel will ask 9 questions, which have been agreed in the pre-meeting. My request to Janine is to be focused, to allow her presentation and to allow for all the questions to be answered. And we're looking at about 45 minutes for all this process, and then the panel will need about 15 minutes to decide. And at the end of questions, the public meeting will close, panel will resume to a private meeting, and we will be obliged to send the report to the Commissioner within 2 days, hopefully very quickly, in order to meet the targets and notify the Commissioner of the panel's decision as soon as possible after this meeting. So, is there any questions from anybody about the process? Okay, I take it silence means we're all okay to proceed. So therefore, can I hand over to the Commissioner for West Yorkshire Police and Crime, Commissioner Mark Burns-Williamson, to introduce Janine. So Mark, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Mark Burns-Williamson, Police and Crime Commissioner for West Yorkshire. Thank you for that setting out of the process, Chair, in relation to this confirmation hearing. As you have said, I've provided a report into the process around the recruitment of the Chief of Staff position. It's offered on a 12-month fixed-term contract, and just quickly skipping through the report, clearly the background is set out in the Police Reform and Social Responsibility Act 2011 in terms of chief officer appointments. We've also attached to this report a role profile which is set out in detail, and that's also been through what are the evaluated process of the Hay panel, which is something we have utilised for all roles within the OPCC. We've set out the timeline there, and accepting that has been a very sort of condensed timeline, but there have been proper reasons for that in terms of consultation during the organisational review period. But having said that, the advertisement went out, it was circulated widely in the Guardian through the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners, the Chief Executives Association, and through other outlets, and we did have 5 applicants, which is pretty good when I've sort of spoken to other PCCs around when they've run similar advertisement processes. We've then just set out the shortlisting process that was undertaken by myself and the HR senior leadership team within West Yorkshire Police, head of employee relations, and we agreed a robust scoring matrix as part of that, with support from my own office through Joe Colley in business support. Just moving on to the interviews. So interviews were undertaken with the 3 of us on the interview panel. Trevor Lake, who you will know is the chair of the Audit and Ethics Independent Member Committee. The head of employee relations, Caroline Bryan, and myself. And of course, like you have set out, Chair, we did undertake the interview process via video platform because of the COVID restrictions, but actually the process, I think, worked pretty well. And again, we had a very robust scoring matrix that was agreed beforehand between us. Obviously, during the interview, then the suitability of candidates were explored, and unanimously we came to the view, out of the people that we interviewed, that Janine was the preferred candidate, and that's why we're putting, or Janine is here this morning to take part in this confirmation hearing. And you'll see from the report, Janine does have a wealth of experience. She's well known to me and other members of the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner, and she's had a particular lead legal role on the National Police Air Service formation and throughout the duration of that. And again, you'll be aware that we have the unique responsibility of being not only the lead force, but the lead local policing body in terms of the hosting of that service. And actually, Janine has provided legal advice and guidance to the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner from throughout the period, and from September 2016 to October 2017, has continued to review and provide legal input into many of the decision papers that we take as part of our executive team process. So she has a good understanding of all the legislation and the due diligence matters that need to be undertaken. Janine is already involved in some of the work with the combined authority in the transition work, and she has also attended some other calls that we've made throughout this process with Greater Manchester and MOPAC in London, because they're the other two areas that have already got mayoral models in place. And of course, Janine advises on the scheme of delegation, and indeed has covered a senior level within the Legal Services Department while one of her colleagues was on maternity leave. So you'll see it again at the end of the report. There's a statement from Janine herself, just setting out and reaffirming some of what I've just described, and also a further statement from me. The vetting processes they're already in place, so there's not an issue there. The same with the references, and subject to the confirmation hearing this morning, we will be in a position to move fairly quickly to make sure Janine comes into post. So I hope that is fairly comprehensive, Chair, and I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you for the introduction. Now, can I welcome Janine Nelson? Janine, we've seen your CV and the papers attached with your experience. Is there anything further you want to say before we enter the questions?
No, not at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, we will go straight on to questions. Colleagues have seen your report and CV and all the relevant papers supplied by the Commissioner. So the opening question is from Councillor Russell Thompson.
Nearly right, Chair. It's Councillor Russell Brown.
Russell Brown, sorry. It's Mark Thompson, yeah. Russell Brown. Okay, Russell.
I understand you're under some pressure running these meetings in the way that we have to do, so that's no problem. Thank you.
Okay, Russell.
Morning. Question 1. What do you think the role of the Chief of Staff is within the Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner, and what qualities can you offer which makes you the best candidate for this position, please? Thank you.
Janine, over to you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the role of the Chief of Staff is obviously leading on what's going to be the devolution to the Mayor. So, but in generally, the Chief of Staff has got to also have to look after the staff themselves and protect the interests of the PCC. So there's at the moment, I don't know if you mean generally or what's going to happen in the next 4 months, but the Chief of Staff has also got monitoring responsibility as well. So the Chief of Staff, I feel I would be a good Chief of Staff because I know the people there. I have been working already with Mark and the team there on a lot of different matters, and I feel like I would be the right person to lead on what is going to be at this moment, this transitional period of going to the Mayor's office, and the staff themselves to lead into, to look after them really, because obviously change is significant for every member of staff, and there's lots of big concerns. So a lot of that is also to be protecting their interests as well, and to make them feel secure as they go across to the mayoral combined authority. So the chief of staff role really is really just helping Mark with his statutory role, assisting him, and also running the office as well, and making sure the staff are happy staff as well, because obviously that helps with everything that they are doing as for it to function and to keep the police and crime panel going. I think that the plan, because I think the key thing here is to make sure that business as usual also happens during this transitional time, and that once it does transfer, that nothing is affected from that as well, and that they can continue doing their role.
Oh, okay, thank you, Janine. Oh, can I just make it clear for you and make it easier for you? It's not an interview. It's not an interview. We just want to ask questions in terms of to demonstrate what your experience, what you're going to offer to the role, how you're going to support the Office of Police and Crime Commissioner. So it is about your experience and what you're able to do. And if there's any question that you're not clear with, feel free to ask for more clarification. So I thought I'll let you know. Yeah. Okay. The next question is from Councillor Peter Gruen.
Good morning, Janine, and I'm sorry this is a bit impersonal and we can't see each other. So in your previous response, you referred understandably to having worked with the PCC before and relationships in the office. But I wonder if you can share with us your personal thought process as you applied for this position, knowing that that situation only pertains for 4 out of the 12 months. And after that, there is a significant change, both in terms of who you will be responsible to. It may involve changes in the office, in process, in procedures. How do you think you've prepared for that? And what do you think about these potential changes?
I think it is a challenging time and is something that is a concern for everybody. The timescales are very tight, and for the change, there is only 4 months and an awful lot to do in that 4-month period. Once we go across it, I think this is unsettling for staff as well as myself, but obviously we don't know who the mayor will be, who we'll be working with, and but there will still be an awful lot to do to just keep, for example, MPAS, which I work with, and the governance of it. Once it goes across to the mayor needs to be properly briefed to understand the PCC's functions and how that will work. So although the role will change, I think there will still be a substantial work for this role, particularly because the PCC, whoever the mayor is, will need to take that to understand what the PCC functions are all about, what Mark actually does at the moment, and so there will be still a lot of work to be done at that stage. So yes, it is an odd situation because after 4 months, obviously I will not be the statutory holder at that stage and the monitoring, because Wicklow will have their own people, but I think there will still be briefing the mayor and helping with the governance of MPAS and the other collaborations, and sort of just fitting the PC's function into the mayoral combined authority to make sure, whether the mayor has so much other things to think about, that is embedded properly.
Thank you, Janine. Can I also remind, I'm sure there won't be, considering the time, there won't be any supplementary questions, because considering that we're on a tight time schedule, and we are sticking to the role of Police and Crime Panel and its remit in terms of confirmation hearing only, just for clarity as we go along. So the third question is from Joe Sykes.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Janine. I'm Jo Sykes. I'm an independent member on the panel. So your existing employer is West Yorkshire Police, ultimately the Chief Constable. And how do you feel you will be able to maintain independence from the police force and support the PCC in his role of scrutinising the Chief Constable?
I'm actually an employee of the PCC at the moment. I do advise the Chief Constable as well, but I'm actually an employee of the PCC, not the Chief Constable. And so I give advice to both. If a conflict arises, we would send it externally. And so from a holding an account to the Chief Constable, obviously that is now the role, and I will be assisting Mark to do that. So and in the future mayor. So I don't really see there would be an issue with that. There wouldn't be a problem with that, because I would be switching roles and I wouldn't be advising the Chief Constable anymore.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janine. Okay, and then we will go on to next question, which is from Councillor Amanda Carter.
Thank you. I'm a member from Leeds, Janine. Good morning. I'm a little bit confused now because I didn't realise that you already worked for the Police and Crime Commissioner. So forgive me for this next question if it's not appropriate. Could you tell me what experience you've got of working in a political environment? And one thing that springs to mind, which probably doesn't apply now, is that I understood that the police's legal department set the criteria for the new tasking meetings between councillors and MPTs. Perhaps you could expand on your experience in political environment, please. Thank you.
Okay, Janine.
Yeah, in the political environment, I mean, as I say, I think I'll just explain on the legal services, because West Yorkshire, I do work in West Yorkshire Police Legal Services, and all the solicitors are employed by the chief, apart from the commercial lawyers. And that the reason for that was because the contracts and land and estates were owned by the PCC, so that was the decision at that time. So there was just 2 commercial lawyers at that point, and they became employees of the PCC, whereas the rest became employees of the chief. So that was the distinction. So I don't actually work in the office of the police. I don't work at Plowland House or anything. I am actually within the legal services department. So that, just to explain that. And then on the political side, I mean, I was involved in the setting up of MPAS, which was quite, and obviously there we had to, right from the word go, the governance I was involved in and how that would work, and politics obviously did play quite a big part in that. We obviously had different PCCs on the board with different backgrounds, and and that often did raise its head, particularly on the inception of MPAS. And then I have worked closely with the OPCC on various aspects that they've done, their different visions. I haven't actually worked on the project that you just mentioned there, so I'm not sure about that. But yes, the political. I've worked with the Home Office with all sorts of things, with data protection issues, and as I say, MPAS is probably the biggest one that we spend a lot of time with, and is political minded as well. So,
okay, thank you, Janine. Can I invite Councillor Tariq Hussain from Bradford to ask a question?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Janine. My question to you is, how would you personally ensure the robustness and transparency of the Commissioner's governance process?
Well, I think this is working constructively with yourselves, really, as the panel. So obviously just we've got the exec meetings, we've got all the different scrutiny boards, and the governance that is already in place, but then working constructively with the panel to ensure that your role is to hold the PCC to account, and myself as the chief, or the head of chief staff, and the monitoring role would obviously be working and checking that things are done correctly and reporting if there was any issues. So I think it's a constructive working environment. The PCC has a lot of boards in place where which are also, the governance is already in place there. So as in my new role, I would just be looking at all those meetings, checking that whether there is anything that needs reviewing, or if it's all in its at the moment, you know, if it's working and who sits on the exec board, who sits, and what help we can give to the panel as well to actually scrutinise what the PCC is doing.
Oh, okay, thank you, Janine. Now, Councillor Jackie Williams wants to ask a question.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Janine.
Morning.
It's a two-pronged question, really, is this one. To start with, of all the challenges ahead in the next year, which there are obviously going to be many, which would you identify as the single most important and why? And following on from that, during this period of major transition, you've partly answered this question. How would you ensure that the organisation is supported in order to deliver the outcomes of the police and crime plan, to ensure that we don't lose that in the middle of all the transitional work? Thank you.
Thank you, Janine.
Well, I think the priority really when coming in January to start this is to try and, I think the staff would need to focus on them. I know from just meetings I've been in that people are doing the transitional work on top of their own work and getting very and really need help now of what you know, we don't want to lose sight of the work business as usual. And so I think the first thing I would be doing is checking that the line management of the staff and check that their well-being really and mental health, because what with COVID, everyone had agile working, and with this additional stress of doing the work for the transition, I do think it's important to check that the staff are coping with that. And even though with reassurance about how it's going to work, obviously any change is significant and there's so much to be done and little extra resource to help them with that. And so that I think that would be my first priority, to see how the staff are actually coping with what work is and all the governance, all the work streams that need doing and the extra work that they have. In the meantime, and this answers partly the second question, is to make sure that they still are able to do the work that supports the actual police and crime plan, and that is how to, you know, how to see if if they can't do it all, what is the priority is and what they need to focus on, because that is important to, as we know, that we want to keep this going, and that when the mayor comes in, that nothing's dropped off within the plan, and that people in Yorkshire are still feeling safe, and that's the important message to get across.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Okay, can I ask a question then, Janine? How would you ensure a safe environment for members of staff to express their professional opinion and be heard, even if it conflicts with the view of strategy of the PCC or the strategy of the PCC?
I think it is giving that assurance to them that they'll be listened to, that each member of staff can contribute and feel comfortable being able to say their opinions. I mean, the first thing I would do is to have meetings with all the staff and see where they're at. And as I say, check out their line management and whether that is still going. But yes, I think it's important that the staff it's all about communication, that they feel they are getting enough information and that they are also able to communicate, ask questions, and have the answers to the questions and be able to express those opinions. So I think it is giving them that reassurance and I mean, I do know a lot of the staff already, and I've been, you know, it's been nice that they've actually, a lot of them have heard of the application, have given me support. So I would hope to be able to build on those relationships.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's about supporting staff and working together as a team. Next question is from Sophie Whitaker, Councillor Sophie Whitaker.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
All right, brilliant. Right, Janine, good morning. My question is just about personal independence again, just like Joe asked earlier. Can you explain what course of action you would take if you felt the PCC was preparing to do something that you considered unwise?
Depending on what it was and whether it's unwise in which sort of situation, but I would expect first to advise him and listen. If obviously from a monitoring point of view, if it was something that would be considered again unlawful, or whether just something that comes under the monitoring, as in I expect him to act with integrity, then I'd have to report it to the police and crime panel, and he would be aware of that. But yes, I would be trying to support it, to advise. But if I had any concerns, I would be coming to the panel to raise those and do a report for the panel as a monitoring officer.
Okay. Well, thank you for being very focused, precise, and to the point. And can I be cheeky and add another question?
Yeah.
What do you believe should be the relationship between the OPCC and the Police and Crime Panel? How would you seek to develop that relationship?
I think, as I think I've said before, it should be a constructive working relationship, in the sense that we're working for the same goals, and which we want to do the keep West Yorkshire safe. We want them to feel safe. We're working for those goals. So it's holding the chief. That everyone is trying to do their best, and that's what we're trying to do. So I think it's keeping everyone informed. Communications, again, very important, and hopefully that we can work closely together, and get the best outcomes really for West Yorkshire, and particularly as this moves across to the mayor, that the policing function does not get diminished, and that the policing function carries on being an important of the PCC function, becomes still important, even though the mayor has also a lot of other things to do, and I think it's that's important.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Can I go back to the panel? Are we okay with the process? Does anybody wants to add anything else other than what's been agreed? Feel that it's very important and relevant to the confirmation meeting? Okay. So this means we're all okay. We're all happy with your questions, Janine.
Okay.
Can I thank you for coming and talk to us and answering the questions, and giving us what assurance that we have to offer, and explain about your experience in the office. And can I also thank the Commissioner as well for coming to join the meeting today. Now we will conclude this part of the meeting, and we will stop the live stream. And can I once again